Good afternoon. I hope you're doing well today. As promised, I'm coming in live to talk about the strategies that I use that help me with avoiding emotional eating. So, obviously, I do still have things come up that make me think I'd like to turn to food, but the chatter in my head is a lot less than it's ever been before, and I never act on those feelings now. So, what were my strategies for doing that? So I just want you to imagine a scenario for a second. This is something that's happened to me, and I'm thinking perhaps it's happened to you too. So you start out a day, you've got really good intentions. You promise yourself, you say to yourself, I'm going to be good today. I'm going to eat really well today. I'm not going to overeat. I'm not going to eat convenience foods. You might have a really good breakfast. Might avoid the mid-morning snack. You might even have a good lunch. Maybe it's something that you don't enjoy that much, but you look at it and think, well, that was a good lunch. Then you get to about mid-afternoon, something annoys you or makes you feel stressed, or you feel like you're not pleasing everybody like you wish you were. Dinner time rolls around. You've got a sensible option or a good option, a healthy option, but by now you're kind of starving. That stressed feeling is ramped up. You're not excited by what there is for dinner, and your partner comes home and you say, shall we get a takeaway? And they're like, yeah, okay, because your little partner's in crime, and plus, often it only takes one of you to be a little bit. And then you blow your being good, and you have the food. You might enjoy the food, you might not enjoy the food. Sometimes it isn't what you imagine it's going to be, and then you think, oh well, I've blown it now, and I will just not bother for the rest of this week. I have done that a million, billion, trillion times. So if you are nodding along, then you're in good company. So how do we do something different for a change? So I put some strategies in place. Got my children here playing at the moment as some holidays. I've got some strategies in place that help me, but what it starts with is a goal or an intention of something that you're going to do differently. So my goal was that I set myself was that I wanted to lose weight. I wanted to see a certain number on the scales. And I wanted to do that in such a way that I sort of retrained how I felt about food and eating and tracking my food, and just make it a complete life change. Now, I've heard that phrase a lot before, and I just never thought that it was possible for me to be that person. I didn't think I was disciplined enough. I didn't want to do the steps that I needed to do in order to get there. And so a lot of the times I just didn't try. But by setting a goal and by setting this intention in my head, this is what I want, you're telling your brain, whose job it is to problem solve things for you, this is what I want. So slowly, I began to figure out what the steps for me were to reach that goal. So having a strategy in place when you have a day like the day I just described is absolutely key. Otherwise, you're going to fail. Sorry, but you are. So a strategy might be plan your meals for the week and then shop to that meal plan. That's a habit I got into when I was doing Slimming World, and I've used that a lot. It certainly helps with budgeting, and it helps with, one of the biggest issues for me is decision fatigue. What am I going to have every meal time? So I put a meal plan in place. I don't not only plan dinners for myself and the family, but I also plan breakfast and lunch as well. And I might even write down a few snacks as well. Then I had to think about really taking responsibility for the calories in versus the calories out. So most of us probably know that you need to be in a caloric deficit to lose weight. So my goal was to lose weight, so I knew I needed to be in a calorie deficit. So I first of all worked out roughly what my calorie burn per day was, and then how much I would need to cut back on to lose weight. And then I had to get comfortable with tracking my food. Now, first of all, I used to use a pen and paper, stick a little notepad by the kettle and just write down everything that goes in your mouth without really thinking about trying to stick to a calorie allowance. And then I got comfortable with the idea of tracking in an app. I have never, ever wanted to do that. I've never enjoyed the idea of it, and I've always really found it a very isolating thought, tracking my food. So there's you, and then there's the rest of the people that you're with. They're not tracking their food. They're not weighing their food and writing it down. And it always seemed such an isolating, unhappy situation for me to be in. Until I discovered a brilliant NLP exercise that takes the associations you have with certain things and you can change them for something else. That has been a huge key for me, and that is a session that I offer to my clients if that's something you're interested in doing. You swap the associations that you've got with tracking food, which is, this is boring, I don't want to do it, I feel isolated, I don't want to have to do this, I'm really pushing against it. If you was to remove the block to tracking your food, how much more accountable would you be for what goes in your mouth? Quite a lot, I think. So, and you swap it with an association of something that's quite the opposite, something that makes you feel easy going and inclusive and part of something. Because we're all here because we want to change the way we eat, we want to change the way we feel about what we consume. So there was that. And then making a list of things that you can do in the moment or promise yourself that you'll do later other than eat. So you're feeling stressed, your top answer for that, our survey says, top answer is eat some food. What other answers are there? Going for a walk, reading a book, watching a program you love, having a little sit down and a cup of tea, chatting to a friend on the phone, writing in your journal. You will, once you ask yourself this question, your brain will go on a search and it will start to pop up some ideas of, well, look, we could do this instead, a meditation. It sounds lame and it doesn't feel that great at first. It doesn't give you that high and that hit. But the more times you do that instead of putting something in your mouth, the more that habit builds up and the easier it is to not do it anymore. What else? A food list. So I made myself a food list of foods I like that I would consider healthy. So high protein things like chicken and meats and pulses and things like that. Things I like, of vegetables I like, of fruits I like, of what you might consider snack foods I like. Later on this week, I'll post some pictures of some of the foods that I will often use in my day-to-day, which you may or may not find helpful. So those are the kind of steps and strategies I have used towards stopping emotional eating. I'd be interested to hear if you've got any thoughts about that. It's key for me to have steps at which to achieve the goal that I want to achieve, strategies. Because if you don't give yourself that, you'll find yourself in that overwhelm and that decision fatigue, and you will fall down and do the thing that you're trying not to do. So I hope this video is helpful, and I look forward to hearing or seeing any of your comments. If you've got any questions, do ask me. See you later.